All right, so Google themselves hyped up this week's Pre-I.O. Android show as the biggest updates to Android ever, which is a really high bar to set. But they then went on to announce a bunch of stuff from Android 17 to a new Android Auto to Googlebooks, not to be confused with Google Books. So I'm gonna show you what's good, what's new, what's meh, and what's a bit overhyped, I think. So I'm gonna start with Android 17, just because every year, updates to Android get smaller and smaller and more incremental. So I was really curious to see what they were gonna get so hyped about. This year, it's not a visual redesign, but there are some added features, and then there's some Gemini stuff sprinkled on top. And spoiler alert, that's the stuff that they're so hyped about. That's the stuff that makes them say it's the biggest Android update ever. I'll have some thoughts. We'll get to that. But a couple neat things in Android. The Gemini interface is redesigned to look a little different, a little sparklier, but also briefly very blurred around the edges before it sharpens up. But it also says Concept UI, subject to change. So I guess I shouldn't go too hard on this just yet. Autofill will expand to be better by including information that it can parse from other Google services like Gmail, Wallet, Photos, etc. So it can already, put in your name and address and the classic stuff, phone number when it fills out forms. But let's say you're filling out a weird form that also is asking for your passport number for some reason. Well, if you have a photo of your passport in Google Photos, it can actually pull that out and automatically paste it in there without you having to go to Photos, find the picture, and then go back and forth. So that's nice. And then there's also some new creator tools to be built directly into Android, like more image processing compatibility so that it matches what we see coming from iPhones, and cutting you out and letting you talk over whatever's on your screen, which is a super popular format that we've seen all over Instagram and TikTok, so you can do that now built into Android. But then they also showed us this new Smart Enhance for photos and videos, I believe, that can, in their own words, reveal breathtaking detail and clarity that you didn't even know could be there. And then they showed a before and after going from this to this, and Jesus Christ, just no. This, it looks worse. I'm telling you, it looks worse. I know it's brighter, and people typically like a brighter image in a side-by-side, and I know there's technically more detail in the shadows and probably in the highlights too, but now you're creating this like flat, featureless image without a hint of contrast or shadows or anything. It looks worse. This is exactly what I was talking about in literally my last video about smartphone cameras and image processing. I'll link it below the like button. If you haven't already seen it, you can go watch it. This is what I'm talking about. But then there's this new feature. There's this new digital well-being feature called Pause Point. And it's actually kind of interesting. So the digital well-being stuff, obviously you've probably heard of screen time. So if you've set a limit to how much you can use a certain app during a day, you hit that limit, it kicks you out, unless you bypass it. But this is a bit of a different take on that. This is basically when you go to open one of those apps, it'll pause you for a second and ask you, like, is this really what you want to do? Is this how you want to spend your time right now? It can even give you various prompts like taking a deep breath, or showing some different apps that you can open instead, or literally swipe through some custom photos to remind you to go touch some grass, along with showing how long you've already used this app today, which is hilarious. I don't know if this is going to work any better than the other screen time tools, but it's different. It's a different take on it, so I'll give them credit for that. It's interesting. There's some other more expanded emojis, and there's also better speech-to-text called Rambler. I don't know why they name it, but it's just better. It removes a lot of filler words like ums and uhs and likes, and neatly stitches together everything you said into a single coherent thought, which is nice. We don't exactly know when all of these features are actually coming out, but they did do the thing that they've done many times in the past at a Google presentation, which is they say this will all be available first on Samsung Galaxy and Google Pixel phones. They've done this many times before, but it'll be later this summer. So whenever they do come out, those will be the first devices to have it. Definitely get subscribed to see the first hands-on and actual review video, which I always do when there's a new version of Android for when that comes out. But then there's the AI stuff too, the Gemini stuff. And I expect to see a lot more Gemini on stage next week at Google I.O., but there's already some big stuff here, and they're calling a lot of it Gemini Intelligence and branding it as a new intelligence system, which is really becoming a very Google thing to do, which is like giving it a new name, even though it's just some new features and updates on top of what already exists. But the idea is Gemini is going to be using what it knows about you across the system and across a bunch of other Google services to be able to help you out. And it's agentic, so it can actually take actions for you and do things on your behalf if you ask it to. Now, I know agentic AI has been a pretty big focus of a lot of these models and systems, especially the past year or so. And Google is making some pretty big promises about what it wants these things to be able to do, but I'm not sure how I feel about some of these promises, to be honest. Like, one of the promo videos has this scene in it, right? So a guy just walks up to take a picture of a concert promo poster, texts somebody about it, and then they agree they want to go. So Gemini Intelligence pops up this button that says, book 2 floor seats to this concert, and you click it, and then it just says, buying tickets, and then tickets purchased. And that's it? That's the whole thing? I feel like that can't be the whole thing, right? But this isn't new. Like, this has always been a challenge to these like promo videos. They're trying to make an ad with like the most relatable, convenient thing that you want AI to do for you. Oh, help me plan my vacation to Italy. Give me an itinerary, and then I'll just follow it blindly. But I don't trust AI to get that all right. And maybe it's just because I've seen previous generative AI things get stuff wrong in the past or hallucinate insane things like we've talked about. But I don't think there's going to be a one-click buy me these floor seats at a concert button that I would trust to press and it'll get everything right. Everything right? It's going to get the right seats. What if it gets the wrong dates or the wrong venue or the wrong, what if the price is not what I expected it to be? So I tweeted this just to make sure I'm not insane, asking if anyone else would trust this. And about 99 out of every 100 replies were just like, absolutely not. I would also not trust this button. One of the replies, though, was Dieter Bohn from Google saying there should actually be more steps in the checkout process. They couldn't fit it all in the promo video. And I would really like to see these steps, right? Because maybe it still would let me like pick the date and verify the exact location and make sure everything's correct and set a price that I'm willing to pay. In which case, it let me do all the same stuff without having to go to the Ticketmaster website, which honestly that's still a win. But until I see that whole flow, I'm definitely in the skeptical category, because as of right now, this counts as like advertising a thing, a one-click thing that doesn't actually exist. But Gemini Intelligence will also let you make custom widgets, which I thought was really convenient. Like literally just a temporary widget for something like a trip you're about to be on or some event you've got coming up, where again, it sorts through everything it knows about that trip through the services it's connected to, like the weather and the flight information. Basically, you choose exactly what you want to show up and it makes a widget for you. And then when you're done, you can just get rid of it. And this specifically, I think, is one of the best strengths of Android. Not just like this one example, but the ability to do a lot of customization and do a ton of detailed personalization inside of something without knowing exactly how to do it. Like we've had this ability in Google Home before, where there's a ton of, most people just do like the one-click light bulb, very simple stuff, but there's also tons of automations built in. And if you don't know how to use it, you might never touch it. But if AI can let you, with natural language, just ask it to, hey, turn on the light and the AC when I get home and do these 2 or 3 other settings and change all this stuff, and then it just builds the automation for you, that's a huge win. So this is another example of that. A custom widget, for even someone like me, would take quite a bit of time. Okay, find the right app, find the right customization settings, build exactly the way you want it to be. But if you could just ask it to build the widget for you and it does it, that's a win. Now, Android Auto got a big update as well. The biggest one is probably just the visual overhaul. It looks a lot like a response to all those Apple Maps versus Google Maps comparisons we've been seeing for the last couple of years now, because it's now much more visually modern. Plus, it shows useful information too. Like there's building silhouettes, which can help. There's overpasses and even specific lane guidance, so you know which lane you're supposed to be in for an upcoming direction. And then there's also the app drawer swipe over from the left side, or the widgets that live over to the right side, which again are fully customizable. So we love to see that. Plus all the Gemini Intelligence features like making your own widget or Magic Queue, if it works, should still be here. So that's useful. And then maybe the most interesting feature, at least to me, was the ability to not only adapt to whatever screen is in your car, but then you can play full screen YouTube videos in HD on the screen of the car while you're parked. Which sounds insane, but if you're an electric car, you might sit there and charge for like 30, 40 minutes. So that seems like a reasonable thing to want to do. But then when you go to drive away, the video smoothly slides over to disappear, not be distracting anymore, but it becomes automatically a background audio podcast, which is nice. But I just don't know how the phone knows that you shifted into drive. Right? Because the video, it kind of implied that you shift into drive and then the video goes away. And maybe it can use your GPS data to understand that you're moving and it'll eventually go away. But it's just, I'm not sure how seamless that will be. We'll see. Also, if you don't have YouTube Premium, does it still do background play, or do you need YouTube Premium for that feature? Oh, and they're also expanding AirDrop support from Android to iPhone with a bunch of new devices. You love to see it. Can't wait to AirDrop a photo from my OnePlus 15 to my MacBook Pro. It's gonna be great. But then last but not least, they showed us the beginning of a totally new product category called Googlebooks. And it's just Chromebooks, but with an update. So they had to rename it. See, a lot of the demos they showed for these Googlebooks looks a lot like the Chrome OS we already know and love. It's got the browser, the tabs, but we also can run Android apps. And of course, it can still do all of the Gemini Intelligence stuff that we just saw, like custom widgets. So that's all very convenient. The big new feature really is the AI-enabled cursor. So you wiggle that cursor and it lets you turn it into essentially a multimodal portal for all things Gemini. It's really neat. So you can click on an image to learn more about it, or even click on multiple images, drag them together, and then combine them with Nano Banana, and it will visualize those images all combined together. It just kind of lets you click around and do whatever you want in Gemini land. Click on some text to draft a reply to it, or learn more about that text. It's a genuinely very smart idea, since the cursor is like the one universal thing everybody understands. Making that magical and super convenient, I think, levels this thing up. Now, the way they described it, Google Book is not just like a single laptop made by Google, like you would think. It is more of a new generation of Chromebooks made by a couple different manufacturers. They said HP, Dell, Lenovo, Acer, and Asus. And the way you'll know it's a Google Book and not just any Chromebook, premium craftsmanship and the glow bar. On the back, there's this really sick RGB glowing bar. I don't think they said the lights actually do anything else. Like, they said they'd be functional, but they didn't say what any of those functions would be. Like, I think a battery indicator would be cool, like turn green when it's done or give me a notification light, but they didn't say any of that. It's mostly just looks cool. Hopefully the things don't end up being much more than $1,000. Otherwise it might be an unfortunate throwback to the Chromebook Pixel days. So you might have noticed my CR48 back here. Really like that thing. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of all these new AI features built into Google and Android. Honestly, I'm very excited to test it. I think mostly my take is the smaller stuff seems the most convenient. Like the new autofill stuff is going to be really nice. Also, the new Android Auto seems like it's going to be really nice. But we'll have to get our hands on all of it and test it and the agentic stuff and all of that. So let me know in the comment section what you want to see. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next one. Peace.